All right, so that right there is a model power locomotive, an old one, the ones that did not have the flywheels in them. I bought a bunch of junk off of eBay and pieced a few of them together. And what I did was I put a motor in the diesel helper in the back, and there is a motor in the locomotive itself. So it's two motors. I got a bunch of motors. I tested them all out, and the two that ran the most similar um, was the two that I used. Um, so then I decided to paint it. Obviously, it was originally a New York Central locomotive. I painted it. I'll zoom in on it in a minute. Let me start it up. It's got a cheap XL decoder in it. I'm waiting for a Tsunami Baldwin decoder to show up to put it in there. Like I said, it's wired to two motors that drain very, very little current, so I'm not worried about them hurting the decoder. Right now it's programmed for Elko sound because the Elko sounds more like a Baldwin than a EMD. But anyway, the Baldwin has that rough sounding start. So I picked the Elko for now because that was the closest sound the Dakota did not have for a Baldwin. So it's got lights in the front. It's got headlights. It's gonna have tail lights as well. They're not wired in because I don't have the correct decoder. But it's got the markers in the front and lit up number boards. Which obviously these trains originally didn't have that. I drilled the holes and put my own lights in. It's got really good speed, low speed. I haven't put the keep alive cap in there, so when it hits a couple pieces of dirty track, the sound might shut off. But we'll fix that later. So it's got lit number boards right there. And of course the lit headlight. I put the Pennsylvania logo on the front. I made that myself at work. We have a graphics department, so I did that. I did the striping. Was all I created a file on the computer, printed it out on vinyl, put it on the train after I painted it. I painted the bottom half. I left the original black paint from the New York Central on the top half of the locomotive and just painted from basically where you see the number there in yellow. From that down, I painted that in gloss, put the lettering on it, and then cleared over it with matte clear to get rid of the shine. Now, this would be, I guess this would be a RF 15 or RF 16. It's only supposed to have one horn on the top. I left the original, that one. The things that look like handrails, which I guess are antennas. I made those from this piece here is, I believe it's 0.028 or 0.28 welding wire from my MIG welder. Yeah, I believe it's 28. It could be 30. I'm not sure. And the pieces going down are thick coil wire I ripped out of a computer, out of a transformer. And what I did was I grind all the coating off of it, burnt all the coating off of it, I should say, sanded it, bent a little hook over the welding wire, and very carefully soldered each one in place. And then I used a Dremel to get rid of all the extra solder. And then I carefully bent it. Now, as far as the welding wire, anybody that welds will know that you can't bend it too. I think if you bend it twice, it snaps. So I did the best I could from pictures that I saw. I drilled holes into the roof, and these pieces drop down in, and then they're glued on the other end. And then I bent them over. The Pennsylvania lettering is a little too big, but I didn't like the little lettering, so it's my train, so I did it the way I wanted. But anyway, I think it looks pretty good. It runs pretty good. The locomotive itself has 2 traction tires on it. I swapped them took them off of one of these models. If anybody knows what the Model Power ones look like, this is the one that has the motor bolted in, or screwed in through a rubber block. These particular ones have traction tires. They're geared differently. This one has a flywheel in it. Those do not. They have extra weight. They don't have a flywheel, and they don't have traction tires. So I slid the rims. I stole 2 of the steel rims off of one of these locomotives and put it on that. I wanted the traction tires on the front. There are no traction tires on the back. That way, if for some reason the motors, I don't want the motors fighting one another. If one's slightly faster, the one in the rear is slightly faster than the back. What I had done was I put the motors in each locomotive. I wired them up DCC. I put them nose to tail with the locomotive itself in front and the B unit in the back. I ran it at 3/4 throttle, and after it made about 5 laps, the space was about 1.5 feet after about 5 laps. Maybe a foot difference. So they're pretty paired up close. I know it's impossible to completely speed match without decoders being on them, but I've already test ran this before I painted it. I ran it for 1 hour and 15 minutes. The motors did not get hot. They weren't working against each other, so I decided to put a DCC decoder in it. Now, this is just the rough version. It's not done yet. Like I said, I'm going to put a Tsunami DCC decoder in it. As you can see right now, the wiring harness is just looped down. There will be a Molex plug somewhere. There'll also be another wiring harness on the other side because I'm going to have lights in the back. And it's also going to have a keep alive capacitor. And there's no more room in the locomotive itself, the A unit. There's no more room for a big enough capacitor. Not without it hitting anything. So the decoder is got a piece of double-sided tape on it, holding it to the top of the motor. It's right here. I will do a video once I put the Tsunami decoder in there. I'll do a video of what the wire looks like. It's not a mess by any means underneath there, but it's going to change anyway. So we'll take it for a run. Like I said, it might hit some dead spots in the track, especially right here. I've already modified the back. There will be a reverse light because according to the photographs that I had, there was a reverse light on the back of the diesel helper, and it did have brake lights, so I will have them on there. So we got some sounds. We got the bell. We got the horn. I put a little momentum in it. So when I slow down, it should have some brake squeal. It does have, the decoder has dynamic brake, you can hear it. It's got electric fans. It's not the fastest thing in the world. They weren't. I think the top speed on them was I think 70, 75 miles an hour. These locomotives were pulling coal loads, even though they look like they should be pulling a passenger train. I guess the antennas on the roof, these antennas were for when they were in long tunnels, I guess, so they wouldn't lose radio transmission. If anybody knows a little bit more about that, please leave a comment. Because I watched a few videos and did a little reading up on it to try to replace how it was. To try to find out a little bit more of this locomotive. What made me build this was I saw a brass one that was selling for about $800, and I liked it the way it looked. So I decided to see what shells were available for shock nose. Of course, there's Tyco. I do have a couple extra Tyco ones I was going to use. But I still needed a chassis to work with, and I didn't want to use a Tyco one. And I wanted a shell that was a little bit more realistic than the Tyco. You can see how cheap the Tyco is. It's just stamped in. There's no actual, like here, it's raised. You can see the daylight coming through the other side. It doesn't have, the Tyco doesn't have the number boards on it, which I could have easily made. But it was just, it was easy to buy the model power. Like I said, I got four excuse me, 4 A units and 3 B units. And 2 of the B units were motorized. 2 of the A units, 2 of the A units weren't, and 2 of them were. This was actually one of the trains that I got in the unit. So I bought a whole lot it was $35, it was cheap. I already fixed this, but it still needs a little work. So I decided to make this locomotive have a motor in it. This one had a motor in it. I changed it. And this locomotive here did not have a motor in it. And I took the trucks out of one of the B units that did have a motor in it because I needed it to be geared the same. Because the other locomotive, the actual locomotives that I had that were motorized were this, and this is geared much slower. This has a flywheel. These units didn't. So I spent a few days fiddling with it, getting them to run right before I painted it. And then I had to let it dry a few days, and then I put the lettering on it, and then let it, let it sit around for a while, and then I cleared it. I probably should have waited a little bit longer before I cleared it, because the gloss paint wasn't, it was dry to the touch, but I don't believe it was completely dry. I did have a little bit of allegation here, which is a sign that the paint was still in the catalyst stage when I cleared it, but I like it. It came out nice. You see that headlight flicker a little bit. It's because the track's dirty. And I don't have a keep alive, but that's the slow speed right there. And that slow speed is going to be a lot better when I change this decoder. The motor control on the Tsunami is so much better than this XL1. The XL1 is not bad. Depending on, what you're putting it in. So this thing has got 32 driving wheels that are powered. Is it 32? 2, 4, 6, 8, I'm sorry, 16. Where did I get 32? 16 wheels that are all powered. The B unit is also feeding current from the pickups to the front of the locomotive. I actually do have to clean the wheels. I oiled it up and everything, greased it all up, but I did not clean the wheels. It's actually sending power from the pickups to the front of the locomotive because the front has a traction tire on the front truck and on the rear truck. And I just wanted to make sure that it had the best pickup that it could possibly have. As you can see, it crawls and goes pretty good. It will be a lot smoother once I change that decoder. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll see, a couple more days from now, when I get that soundtraxx, we'll see how it goes. And that was basically top speed. Now, I'm going to switch controllers. That's a Digitrax that only allows the train to get 14 volts. I'm going to put a cheap... Now we're going to run off a cheap Bachman, and you'll see the difference in the speed. Whoop. You can see it's significantly faster. It's because the Bachman sends 16 volts to the track, and the Digitrax sends 14. These are 24 volt motors I put in there. They have a lot more RPM than the original motors that were in here. I think went about maybe that fast on DC with 18 volts running into them. And just for me, that was too slow. So I put 2 dual shaft 24 volt motors that I think at 12 volts spin at 11,000 RPM or 12,000 RPM. So if it's getting 14 volts through the decoder, then that's probably where the extra speed's coming from. But it runs pretty good. I'm really, yeah. There's a $35 decoder that I put in this. I paid only a few dollars for each motor, and I bought a box of broken trains for $35. And I could have stopped there, but I figured if it was going to run this good, I might as well put a Digitrax decoder in it. I like how when you start it up, it takes a couple seconds for the lights to turn on. That's the root number board. Now when I get the Digitrax decoder, I'll put a cab light in there and a bunch of other stuff because it'll have the extra outputs for it. This one here only had a couple outputs, so it is what it is. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please leave a comment. Have a good night.